All right, Daniel Grimmett here. Welcome to the Make a Living Producing YouTube channel, the place where I make crappy drawings and you learn how to build a successful music production business. Today, I want to do part two of the little two-parter that I released today. The first video I released was my actual process for how I work with a client online. So if you're curious about, how that works, then you can check out that video. In this one, I wanted to chat about some of the benefits of working online and doing, I guess, remote work, if you want to call it, for clients versus the traditional local studio model. And I'm also going to do a video probably next week on the downsides of online music production. There are a couple, but I'll save that for a different video. I will say there's more ups than there are downs to doing the online music production. And so yeah, let's dive into it. Before I start teaching here, I want to just remind you that I do have a 40-minute class. If this stuff interests you, you want to learn, okay, how can I really build an online music production business? 40-minute class, it's free. Link is in the description. So let's dive in here. So reason number one that I like doing online production: location. So a lot of us live in places where our local market isn't really great. And I hear that excuse a lot. Well, I can't make a living as a producer because there's not a lot of artists where I live, or, there's no serious artists where I live. Well, working online, it makes location irrelevant. You can live anywhere you want. Of course, I know people that do this that live in music cities like LA and Nashville and London and New York and all that stuff, but you certainly don't have to. The top earners that I work with as a consultant, they don't live in music cities at all, or even really near any. So it makes location irrelevant. You can also, if you like traveling, you can do this in travel. You can go anywhere in the world and run this business, just because all we really need is a laptop and some headphones and some software to produce tracks nowadays. So that's the first benefit. It makes location irrelevant. The second benefit is an important one. It just makes a lot of sense financially, because we're not bound by what other local competitors are charging. When I do free strategy calls for producers, I always ask, they tell me their rates. Normally they're really low. And I'm like, well, how did you come up with that rate? Well, it's what the other guys in my city charge. So I based it off of that. We don't need to base, who cares what other people charge? We don't need to base what we charge off what other people charge. That's their business. But I get the point. A lot of people want to stay competitive, so they base their rates off of other people. But that sucks if other people aren't charging a lot. So the cool thing about going online is that our rates don't have to be bound by local competitive prices, right? We can charge what we want to. Now, the second part of this is, obviously there's just more clients online. There's more people. It's a numbers game. If you're in a small city this kind of goes back to location. If you're in a small city of 100,000 people or 1,000,000 people, there's just a certain number of musicians that you can work with. Versus if you go online, there's billions of people in the world and a lot of musicians, and a lot of those need these services. So just more clients, more projects, that equals more money, and you're not bound by local competitive pricing. The third part to this is different countries. There's different economies. So it may be hard to charge a rate in, let's say you live in, for example, I'll give you an example here. I was doing a consultation call with a producer down in Brazil, and he was doing pretty good. And we were talking about his rates, and he was like, well, these are my rates in Brazil, and they're decent rates. And I was telling him, I was like, man, if you could work for some clients in, the United States or in the UK, this is what we're paying. And when it transferred to their denomination, their money, it was like crazy amount. He was just like, "Oh my gosh, that's in my country, that's a ton of money." I was like, "Yeah, if you can expand online and start picking up some clients in different countries with different economies, and then the exchange rate is in your favor, it's an entirely different ball game." So it was like the same project he would do in Brazil, if he did it for someone in the States at a very, very competitive rate in the States, it was like 4 to 5 times what he was making per project down there. So the exchange rate really worked in his favor. So that's another reason. Okay, let's go to 3 here. One of my favorites. Time and freedom. So time, money we can make, we can lose, we can get it back. Time we can never get back. And too much of one thing is never a good thing. So I consult a lot of producers who they make a decent living, but they're literally in a studio all day. And when we're in our early 20s and stuff, that may be fine. But when you get a little older and want to have a family or have kids or want to travel or have time to do hobbies and other things, if you have to be locked in the studio all day just to make a decent living, I mean, I don't see the point necessarily. We all love producing music, but again, too much of one thing is never good. We need time to do other things and actually live our life, right? Because other people with other jobs, they get to do that. So we can do that too. And that's why I like the online collaboration business model, because we're not locked into someone else's schedule. You know, if I have a project, I have to get it done by a certain date. And as long as I get it done by that date, I can work on it whenever. I can do it all in that day or work on a little bit here and there, but I don't have to show up at a certain time because a client's going to be there and stay for 12 hours because they want to stay and work for 12 hours. I can put in a couple hours here where I want. It's just more flexible schedule. And we end up making the same amount of money, but have more time to do other things that we want to do. So that's a big one for me. And the last one that I'll talk about here is how am I going to write this? Boop. I'm going to mark it out. So the cool thing about doing online is that we don't need a fancy studio. Most of the people I work with work at home in their home studio, bedroom studio, if you want to call it that. We don't need fancy gear. We just need enough to do our best work. Because clients online, they don't care about that. They're not coming to your studio. Most of them could give a crap about gear anyway, even though we as producers think they care. In most cases, they don't. They just care about the result. So you don't need to have fancy studio and gear. I've built a multiple six-figure music production company with an interface, a pair of monitors, and a computer with some software on it. That's it. And when I started, they weren't even that nice, They were lower end stuff. Now I have, I guess, mid-range stuff, but still nothing fancy. So that is the fourth benefit. A lot of people think, oh, well, I don't have professional gear to make a living doing this, or I don't have a cool space, or I'm working out of my bedroom, so I'm embarrassed to bring clients over. Working online solves all of that. I don't even have pictures of what my studio looks like on our website. One, because I hire so many people in different places. There is no real one studio that we do our work out of. Back a couple years ago, I had it set up that way in Nashville. We had one studio where we all worked out of, but now I'm either doing projects myself or farming out the work. So there really isn't a picture of a studio to put on our site, and no one ever asks. They don't care. They just hear the result. We've built the authority. They want to work with us. That's it. So I hope that shines some light there on working online and some of the benefits to it. Again, there's definitely some downsides, and I'll address those in another video. But hopefully this a lot of the things here are what I hear people use as excuses as to why they're not making it. I don't have um, a lot of gear, or I don't have a lot of time, or my rates aren't high enough. I have to compete with people in my local area. Location, there aren't a lot of musicians where I live. Well, the benefits to working online is that it knocks all of those out. So those aren't excuses for you anymore. So you're welcome for that. Thanks for watching as always, and if you like the video, drop a like and a subscribe, and we will see you next time.